Now to the case of a college student from Southfield who was seriously hurt while home on summer break, and then she later died at the hospital.
Police are now investigating the case as a homicide. Terrell Bailey spoke with police and the victim's mother.
The security camera caught it all. A silver Jeep Compass speeding through the night, a back door flying open, and a young woman tumbling onto the hard pavement. The vehicle never stopped. By the time police arrived at 4:29 a.m., 23-year-old Mia Kanu lay alone on Providence Drive, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian fading with each labored breath. Welcome to True Crime Malice. If you're new here, hit subscribe now because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about friendship. She was beautiful inside and out, Mia's mother would later say through tears. But on that June night in 2023, beauty and kindness weren't enough to save her. The person behind the wheel wasn't a stranger. It was Kentia Fern, someone Mia considered a close friend. As Mia fought for her life in a hospital bed, Kentia was filing a police report, not about her friend's fall but about her missing phone. For hours she never mentioned that her friend was dying. When she finally spoke to authorities, her story was riddled with contradictions that would make investigators' blood boil. What kind of friend is that? Police Chief Elvin Barron would later demand at a press conference, his voice tight with barely contained fury. The toxicology report would reveal alcohol levels of 0.21% in Mia's system. Vomit stained the door seal of the Jeep. Fingerprints told their own story. But the most damning evidence was what happened after Mia fell, or was pushed, from that moving vehicle. Tonight we're diving into a case that exposes the darkest side of friendship. We'll reveal how a promising young woman's summer visit home turned deadly, how a night of partying ended in betrayal, and how a 90-day jail sentence became the only consequence for a life extinguished. The surveillance footage doesn't lie, the evidence doesn't waver, but the question remains, was this a tragic accident made worse by callous indifference, or something far more deliberate? Stay with me as we uncover what really happened to Mia Kanu on that Michigan road and why the person who should have saved her chose to drive away instead. Born January 25, 2000 in Lansing, Michigan, Mia Amelia Kanu was the kind of person who left an impression. Friends described her as the light that entered the room before she did, a young woman whose compassion extended beyond humans to every creature she encountered. I thought it was over for me until I met Mia, one friend confessed. This wasn't an isolated sentiment. Across different social circles, Mia had earned a reputation as someone who lifted others up, who saw potential where others saw problems. By 23, Mia had already carved a clear path for herself. A senior at Tennessee State University, she wasn't just studying veterinary medicine, she was excelling at it. As a Dean's Scholar, she conducted research at the campus Agricultural Research and Extension Center, focusing on food and animal science. Her professors noted her exceptional attention to detail and unwavering dedication to understanding animal behavior and treatment. Beyond the classroom, Mia put her knowledge into practice at Richland Animal Clinic in Nashville. There, she worked as a veterinary assistant, gaining hands-on experience that would prepare her for the career she'd dreamed of since childhood. Her colleagues remembered her gentle touch with frightened animals and her ability to calm even the most distressed patients. At home, Mia's cat Tails was the beneficiary of her boundless love for animals. Friends joked that Tails lived better than most humans, with Mia often preparing special meals for her feline companion and ensuring its comfort above her own. Mia's mother, Bianca Van Meter, was her biggest champion. The two shared an unusually close bond, often discussing plans for the future that extended beyond Mia's career. Together they had begun outlining a foundation aimed at empowering young women, a project that would later become Bianca's tribute to her daughter's memory. She was a team leader in all that she did, her family recalled. In high school, Mia had excelled at volleyball, demonstrating the same leadership qualities on the court that she would later bring to her academic pursuits. She approached challenges with a quiet confidence that inspired those around her. Her faith was central to her identity. Described as God-fearing by those who knew her best, Mia's spiritual foundation guided her interactions and reinforced her commitment to service. She viewed her future veterinary career not just as a profession, but as a calling, a way to ease suffering and bring healing. That summer of 2023, Mia had returned to Southfield, Michigan, to visit family. It was meant to be a brief respite before returning to Tennessee for her final year of studies. She had interviews lined up for veterinary school, recommendations secured from professors who recognized her potential, and a clear vision for her future practice. In her last phone call with her mother before that fateful night, Mia had excitedly shared news about a potential internship that would fast-track her career goals. She was on the verge of everything she'd worked for, Bianca would later tell reporters, her voice breaking. How then did a young woman with such promise, beloved by friends, supported by family, excelling in her chosen field, end up alone on a cold Michigan road in the pre-dawn hours? What transformed a routine ride home with a friend into her final journey? The answer lies in the complex relationship between Mia and Kentia Fern, a friendship that would ultimately prove fatal. And as we'll discover, the events of June 3rd reveal how quickly trust can shatter when alcohol, jealousy, and selfishness collide. June 3rd, 2023. The Michigan summer had just begun to settle in, warm days giving way to comfortable evenings perfect for gatherings. In Southfield, a suburban city just north of Detroit, weekend house parties were a common escape for college students home for the summer break. Mia had been back in Michigan for just over a week. After months of intense study and clinical work in Tennessee, she was enjoying reconnecting with hometown friends. That Saturday night, she decided to attend a local house party, a decision that would set in motion the final hours of her life. The gathering was unremarkable by most accounts: music, conversation, drinks flowing freely among friends celebrating their temporary reunion. Witnesses later told police that Mia seemed to be enjoying herself, catching up with old acquaintances and sharing stories about her veterinary studies. She was drinking, yes, but not excessively. At least, not initially. Kentia Fern, 23, was also at the party. The two women had known each other for years, their friendship dating back to high school, but friends would later hint at underlying tensions. Kentia had recently experienced setbacks in her own life, career disappointments and relationship troubles that stood in stark contrast to Mia's clear trajectory of success. There was always something competitive about how Kentia acted around Mia, one party attendee later told investigators, like she was keeping score nobody else knew about. As the night progressed, both women consumed more alcohol. By the time they decided to leave around 3:30 a.m., toxicology reports would later show Mia's blood alcohol level had reached 0.21%, nearly 3 times the legal driving limit. Kentia, who took the wheel of her 2022 silver Jeep Compass, was also intoxicated, though she would later downplay this fact to authorities. Mia took the back seat of the Jeep. Another friend was supposed to join them but decided at the last minute to stay longer at the party. This split-second decision meant Mia was alone in the back when they pulled away from the curb and into the night. What happened inside that vehicle over the next 15 minutes has been pieced together through forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and Kentia's own contradictory statements. The Jeep headed toward the Coach House Apartments near Greenfield Road and empty Vernon Street. According to cell phone records, Kentia was engaged in a heated text exchange with her boyfriend during the drive, a fact she initially concealed from investigators. The argument escalated, with her boyfriend eventually telling her he was done with the relationship. Meanwhile, in the back seat, Mia was feeling the effects of the alcohol. Evidence suggests she began to feel ill. The forensic team would later find traces of vomit in the seal of the rear passenger door, a crucial detail that contradicted Kentia's initial story. At some point during the drive, Kentia's boyfriend stopped responding to her texts. According to phone records, she called him repeatedly, growing increasingly agitated with each unanswered call. It was during this escalating frustration that something critical happened in the backseat. From Mia's perspective, the world was likely spinning. Feeling sick, she may have leaned against the door for relief. Perhaps she tried to crack the window for fresh air. Or, as some investigators would later speculate, perhaps she overheard Kentia's relationship drama and said something that triggered her friend's anger. Surveillance cameras from a nearby business captured the Jeep traveling at approximately 45 Emth along Providence Drive at 4:26 a.m. The footage shows the rear passenger door suddenly opening. In the next frame, a figure tumbles onto the pavement, Mia's body rolling several times before coming to rest in the middle of the road. The most damning detail, the Jeep never slowed down. From inside the vehicle, Kensha would have felt the rush of night air, would have heard the door open, would have known something was terribly wrong. The rearview mirror would have shown her friend's body on the asphalt behind her, yet she continued driving. Police would later find Mia's phone and a key fob to the Jeep on the road near her body, items that tell their own story about her final moments. Was she clutching her phone, perhaps trying to call for help as she realized her friend was in no condition to drive? Was she holding the key, attempting to convince Kensha to let her drive instead? Or is there a darker possibility, one that Police Chief Elvin Barron would later allude to when he stated there was no evidence to suggest Mia jumped from the vehicle? What really happened in those crucial seconds before Mia exited the Jeep? Was it a tragic accident made worse by Kentia's subsequent actions? Or did something more deliberate occur between two friends, one struggling with jealousy, the other unaware of the danger she was in? The answer lies in what Kentia did next. Actions that would shock the conscience of an entire community. At 4:29 a.m., a passing motorist spotted something unusual on Providence Drive, what appeared to be a bundle of clothing in the middle of the road. Slowing down, the driver made the horrifying discovery: a young woman lying motionless on the asphalt, blood pooling beneath her head. The 911 call was frantic. "There's someone in the road. I think she's been hit by a car. She's not moving much. Please hurry." Within minutes, Southfield Police and Emergency Medical Services arrived at the scene. They found Mia Kanu barely clinging to life, suffering from catastrophic head trauma. Her body was positioned directly in front of the Coach House apartments, suggesting she had been there for some time before being discovered. No identification was immediately found, just a phone with a shattered screen and a key fob lying nearby. No vehicle remained at the scene. No friend waited anxiously for help to arrive. Mia faced this critical moment entirely alone. Paramedics worked quickly, stabilizing her as best they could before rushing her to a nearby hospital. The trauma team immediately recognized the severity of her injuries. The impact with the road's surface had caused devastating brain trauma. They placed her on life support and notified police that they were dealing with a critical injury case with suspicious circumstances. For the next 48 hours, Mia fought for her life in the ICU. Her mother, Bianca Van Mater, received the call every parent dreads in the early morning hours. Racing to the hospital, she found her vibrant daughter unrecognizable, connected to machines that breathed for her, monitored her failing vital signs, and measured the diminishing electrical activity in her brain. "I kept talking to her, telling her to fight," Bianca would later recall. "I promised her we would find out what happened. I promised her justice." But on June 5, 2023, just 2 days after being found on that cold pavement, Mia Kanu was pronounced dead. Her organs were donated, saving 4 other lives, a final act of giving from a young woman who had always put others first. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they would abandon you at your most vulnerable moment? What would you do if you witnessed a friend in danger? Would you risk everything to help them, or prioritize your own interests? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What makes Kentia's actions following the incident so disturbing is how they contradict everything we understand about genuine friendship. True friendship is built on reciprocity, loyalty, and sacrifice. The willingness to put someone else's needs above your own when circumstances demand it. Psychologists who have studied the case point to several concerning patterns in Kentia's behavior that night. First, there's the complete absence of the caretaking response, the instinctive human reaction to help someone in distress. This response is so fundamental that its absence often indicates either extreme shock, impairment, or a disturbing lack of empathy. Second, there's the priority inversion. Kensha's decision to focus on retrieving her phone from her boyfriend rather than tending to her critically injured friend. This reveals a hierarchy of values that placed material possessions and relationship drama above human life. Most troubling is what experts call narrative construction. the elaborate story Kentia began crafting almost immediately after the incident. Rather than calling 911, she began laying groundwork for a version of events that would minimize her responsibility. As Mia lay in the hospital fighting for her life, completely unaware of the outside world, Kentia was making calculated moves. She picked up another friend. She drove past the accident scene but didn't stop when she saw emergency vehicles. She went to a different police precinct to report her phone stolen, all while knowing exactly what had happened to Mia. The contrast between Mia, who friends described as someone who would give you her last dollar, and the friend who wouldn't even give her a moment of concern after she fell from a moving vehicle, couldn't be more stark. But the most shocking aspects of this case were still to come, as police began the painstaking process of reconstructing what really happened that night, and why Kentia Fern left her friend to die on Providence Drive. For months, the circumstances surrounding Mia Kanu's death remained shrouded in uncertainty. The Southfield Police Department worked methodically, gathering evidence piece by piece, interview by interview. Then, on September 21, 2023, Police Chief Elvin Barron called a press conference that would blow the case wide open. Standing before a room of journalists, family members, and concerned citizens, Chief Barron revealed the department had obtained crucial surveillance footage from businesses along Providence Drive. What the cameras captured contradicted everything Kentia Fern had told authorities. "We're going to show you something disturbing," Barron warned before playing the footage. Mia's mother covered her face, shoulders shaking with silent sobs, but the true bombshell came next. "After extensive investigation, we have determined that Ms. Fern did not immediately seek help for her friend," Chief Barron continued. "Instead, she drove to another location, picked up another individual, and then claimed to have searched for Ms. Kanu." The timeline Barron laid out was damning. After Mia fell from the vehicle at approximately 4:26 a.m., Kentia drove to a nearby apartment complex and picked up another friend. Together, they allegedly drove around looking for Mia. During this supposed search, they noticed emergency vehicles at the scene where Mia lay critically injured. But instead of stopping to help or identify her, they drove away. Hours later, at 12:25 p.m., nearly 8 hours after the incident, Kentia finally appeared at the Southfield Police Department with a friend. But even then, she didn't come clean. Instead, she fabricated an elaborate story about a fight with her boyfriend. According to Kentia's statement, her boyfriend had taken her phone and driven away in his own vehicle. She claimed she was following him to retrieve it when Mia, who she said was asleep in the back seat, suddenly woke up, grabbed her own phone back from Kentia, and somehow fell from the vehicle. Chief Barron's face hardened as he recounted this version of events. "The physical evidence tells a different story," he stated firmly. The forensic investigation had yielded critical findings. First, the toxicology report confirmed Mia's blood alcohol level was 0.21%, suggesting significant impairment. More telling was the discovery of vomit in the seal of the rear passenger door and on the roadway near where Mia was found. "Evidence suggests Miss Kanu may have been in the process of vomiting when she exited the vehicle," Barron explained. "This is consistent with someone who is intoxicated attempting to open a door to be sick outside the vehicle." The vehicle itself told another part of the story. 2 search warrants, one for the Jeep and another for its Uconnect system, revealed crucial details. When technicians dusted for prints, they found only Mia's fingerprints in the backseat area. No one else had been back there with her. The door handle and window controls showed multiple prints from Mia, suggesting she had been trying to operate them herself. Notably absent was any blood evidence inside the vehicle, contradicting any suggestion that Mia might have been injured before exiting the Jeep. Perhaps most damning was what investigators discovered about Kentia's actions after the incident. Before ever reporting Mia's fall to Southfield Police, Kentia had gone to Detroit's 5th Precinct to report her phone stolen. Detroit officers noted in their report that Kentia appeared intoxicated during this visit. Crucial evidence that she had been driving under the influence when Mia fell from her vehicle. Chief Barron paused the press conference at this point. The room had fallen completely silent. Then, with barely contained emotion, he asked the question that would come to define the case. What kind of friend doesn't stop driving to turn the vehicle around to tend to a friend? What kind of friend is that? The question hung in the air, unanswerable yet devastating in its simplicity.
From the vehicle. What the evidence suggests is that Mia may be in the process of throwing up. There was vomit on the seal of the door, and there was vomit in the roadway. Alcohol was detected in Mia's blood, and the alcohol blood contact was a .21.
As you can see in the video, the driver, her friend, who police identify as 23-year-old Kentia Monique Fern of Detroit, kept going.
You were in control of the vehicle, and someone exits your vehicle while the car is in motion, and you don't take the time to stop, render aid, and check on your friend. What kind of friend is that?
Chief Barron says instead, Fern went to the Detroit Police 5th Precinct to report her phone stolen, but still didn't say anything about Mia falling from the car.
And the officer reported that Ms. Fern appeared highly intoxicated.
He says it wasn't until 8 hours after the tragedy that Fern came to the Southfield Police Department, explaining that prior to the tragedy, Fern had gotten into an altercation with her boyfriend, who allegedly took her phone, and he drove off in another vehicle. Fern attempted unsuccessfully to follow her boyfriend while Mia was asleep in the back seat. During Fern's drama, Mia fell from the vehicle. Now, Fern...
The evidence shows, Barron continued, his voice rising with controlled anger, that Ms. Fern was more concerned about getting her phone back from her boyfriend than calling 911 and tending to Ms. Kanu. For the investigators who worked the case, this represented a profound moral failure that transcended the legal violations. Detective James Henderson, who led the investigation, would later admit this case affected him more than most in his 22-year career. In homicide cases, we often see strangers harming strangers, or family disputes that turn violent, Henderson explained. But to see someone abandon a friend in a life-threatening situation, that's a different kind of betrayal. It makes you question humanity. The press conference concluded with the announcement that Kentia Fern had been arrested on September 19th and charged with leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death, a felony carrying up to 5 years imprisonment, and operating while intoxicated. As reporters shouted questions and cameras flashed, Mia's grandmother, Lucina Reyes, made a statement that captured the family's profound sense of betrayal. "We wanted everyone to know that Mia loved Kentia, so that's what hurt, for her to just leave her there." The investigation had answered many questions about how Mia Kanu died, but one question remained unanswered. Why would Kentia Fern, when faced with a critical moment that demanded basic human decency, choose to drive away? The web of lies Kentia Fern constructed began unraveling the moment investigators compared her statements with the physical evidence. What emerged was a pattern of calculated deception designed to distance herself from responsibility for Mia's death. When Kentia finally appeared at the Southfield Police Department at 12:25 p.m. on June 3rd, 8 hours after Mia had been found critically injured, she arrived with a prepared narrative. According to the official police report, she claimed a complex sequence of events had led to the tragedy. In her telling, she and her boyfriend had been arguing while Mia slept peacefully in the back seat. The argument allegedly escalated into a physical altercation, after which her boyfriend seized her phone and drove away in his own vehicle. Desperate to retrieve her phone, Kentia said she pursued him, with the still sleeping Mia in tow. During this pursuit, Kentia claimed, Mia suddenly awoke. Seeing Kentia using her phone to contact another friend, Mia supposedly grabbed her phone back. Then, according to Kenia's statement, Mia somehow fell from the vehicle during this interaction. Detective Sarah Mitchell, who conducted the initial interview, noted Kentia's demeanor was unusually composed for someone describing the circumstances of a friend's critical injury. She recited the events as if reading from a script, Mitchell wrote in her report. There was no emotional response when discussing Ms. Kanu's condition. The boyfriend Kentia described as central to her story. When investigators tracked him down, he provided text messages showing he hadn't been with Kentia that night at all. In fact, their argument had occurred entirely via text, with him breaking off their relationship remotely. He had never been in the Jeep, never taken her phone, and never known about Mia's fall until police contacted him. Phone records revealed something even more disturbing. Between 4:30 a.m., minutes after Mia fell from the vehicle, and 7:15 a.m., Kentia made 17 calls, none to emergency services. Instead, She called her boyfriend repeatedly, then several other friends, apparently seeking sympathy about her relationship troubles, while Mia lay dying in a hospital bed. Perhaps most calculating was Kentia's decision to visit the Detroit Police Department's 5th Precinct before ever reporting Mia's accident. There, at approximately 8:45 a.m., 4 hours after Mia was found, she filed a report claiming her phone had been stolen by her boyfriend. The officer who took her report noted she appeared intoxicated with bloodshot eyes and slurred speech. This preemptive report served a clear purpose, establishing an alternative explanation for why she might have been distracted while driving, while simultaneously creating a record that portrayed her as a victim rather than a perpetrator. When confronted with the surveillance footage showing Mia tumbling from the moving vehicle and the Jeep continuing without slowing, Kentia offered yet another explanation. She claimed she hadn't realized Mia had fallen out, despite the open door and the sudden absence of her backseat passenger. The level of planning evident in Ms. Fern's actions suggests this wasn't panic or shock, noted prosecutor Karen McDonald. This was a deliberate attempt to construct a narrative that absolved her of responsibility. But what truly motivated such elaborate deception? Was it simply fear of legal consequences for driving intoxicated? Was it the relationship drama that had consumed her attention that night? Or was there something deeper, something that spoke to the complex dynamics between the two women? Friends who knew both Mia and Kentia hinted at underlying tensions. While Mia's star was rising, academic success, career prospects, family support, Kentia's life had stalled. Some suggested Kentia harbored resentment toward her more successful friend, a theory that gained traction as investigators uncovered deleted social media posts showing Kentia's increasingly bitter comments about people who have everything handed to them. What transformed a friendship into such callous indifference? The answer would soon emerge in the courtroom, where Kentia Fern would finally face the consequences of her actions and her lies. On September 20, 2023, the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office formally charged Kentia Fern with 2 crimes: leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death, a felony carrying up to 5 years imprisonment, and operating while intoxicated, a misdemeanor punishable by up to 93 days in jail. The charges came after months of painstaking investigation and evidence collection. The law requires anyone involved in an accident to stop and immediately report the accident to authorities. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald stated firmly in a press release, "Leaving the scene when someone is seriously injured or dies is a felony. My office will hold those who do so accountable." Many in the community expected additional charges, perhaps involuntary manslaughter or negligent homicide, but prosecutors explained that the evidence, while damning regarding Kentia's actions after the incident, couldn't conclusively prove she had directly caused Mia to exit the vehicle. The case moved swiftly through the legal system. At her arraignment, Kentia appeared subdued, speaking only to confirm her name and acknowledge the charges. Her attorney immediately began negotiating with prosecutors, seeking to minimize potential jail time. Then, in a move that shocked many following the case, Kentia pleaded no contest to both charges in October, just 1 day before her trial was scheduled to begin. A no contest plea, while not technically an admission of guilt, has the same legal effect as a guilty plea. It allowed Kentia to avoid publicly admitting wrongdoing while still accepting legal consequences. The sentencing hearing at Oakland County Circuit Court drew significant media attention. Judge David Cohen listened as prosecutors detailed the timeline of events and Kentia's deliberate attempts to mislead investigators. The defense countered with character witnesses who described Kentia as normally responsible and claimed the incident was an aberration in an otherwise law-abiding life. When Judge Cohen finally delivered his sentence, many in the courtroom gasped. 90 days in jail with 1 day credit for time served, plus 3 years of probation. The sentence, far below the potential 5-year maximum, felt inadequate to many observers. From the back of the courtroom, Bianca Van Meter watched the proceedings with hollow eyes. For Mia's mother, no sentence could ever feel sufficient. As Kentia was led away in handcuffs, Bianca clutched a photo of her daughter in her graduation cap, taken just months before her death. 90 days for a life, she whispered to family members beside her. That's what my daughter was worth to the justice system. Outside the courthouse, Mia's family gathered, their faces reflecting not anger but profound disappointment. Lucina Reyes, Mia's grandmother, spoke briefly with reporters, her voice steady despite her grief. "We didn't want vengeance," she explained. "We wanted accountability. We wanted her to acknowledge what she did to our girl." For the Kanu family, the legal proceedings brought no closure, no sense that justice had truly been served. The system had processed the case efficiently, applied the relevant statutes, and moved on. But for those who loved Mia, the wound remained raw. "The hardest part," Bianca later confided, "is knowing that in those final moments, my daughter was alone. The person who should have helped her just drove away." How do you forgive that? How do you make peace with that kind of betrayal? In the wake of unimaginable loss, Bianca Van Meter channeled her grief into purpose by establishing the Mia Kanu Foundation. What began as conversations between mother and daughter about empowering young women became Bianca's tribute to Mia's memory and unrealized potential. "Mia always lifted others up," Bianca explained at the foundation's launch. "She believed in creating opportunities, especially for young women interested in veterinary medicine and animal sciences." Today, the foundation provides scholarships to female students pursuing veterinary careers, with special consideration for those demonstrating the qualities Mia embodied: academic excellence, community service, and compassion for animals. Beyond financial support, the foundation offers mentorship programs connecting students with established professionals in the field, creating the support network Mia herself had valued. Mia's story carries profound lessons about the nature of true friendship. Genuine friendship demands presence in moments of crisis, prioritizing another's welfare above convenience or self-interest. It requires the courage to make difficult choices, calling for help, accepting responsibility, facing consequences, rather than fleeing from them. This case also highlights practical measures that might prevent similar tragedies. First, always designate a sober driver when alcohol is involved. Had either woman made this simple arrangement, Mia might still be alive today. Second, use rideshare services or public transportation when plans change or designated drivers become impaired. The cost of a ride is insignificant compared to the potential cost of a life. Third, and perhaps most importantly, commit to never leaving someone vulnerable alone. This "no one left behind" principle should be non-negotiable among friends, regardless of circumstances. If Mia's story has impacted you, please take a moment to like this video and share it with others. Your engagement helps spread these crucial lessons and honors Mia's memory. I'd also like to hear your thoughts in the comments. What conversations have you had with friends about looking out for each other? What agreements or plans do you make before nights out to ensure everyone gets home safely? While Mia Kanu's promising life was cut tragically short, her legacy continues through the foundation bearing her name, through the animals she helped during her brief career, and through the lessons her story teaches about responsibility, friendship, and the profound consequences of the choices we make in critical moments. For True Crime Malice, this is a reminder that behind every case we cover is a real person whose life mattered and whose story deserves to be told.